I sent you a link with my alternate account on Discord if you want to open that up real quick. Predecessor teased their map, and I want to go ahead and talk about it with you, actually. Now, how do you feel about this picture that you see here? And I'll put it up on the screen for everybody. 2 days ago, actually. 2 days ago, they teased their new map, and I have very opinionated views on it, but I want to get your feedback first.
I don't even know what the fuck I'm looking at, to tell you the truth. Like, what angle am I looking at?
So this looks like, based on the fact that we see two towers in front of Gideon, one of them being right next to his head, way in the distance, it looks like a very monolith inspired.
Okay, gotcha.
Looks like a very monolith inspired laning system, to where you can't see if somebody's crossing behind towers because of the way it's structurally designed, zigzag, the lane, right?
Right.
And then, considering this is a big open area, it honestly looks like it's in front of the inhibitors, right? I would gather to think that you see on the dusk side that river of red falling down from the middle, like way in the back.
Yeah.
Okay, so that lets you know that's the middle. Then you have the left tower and a right tower that can barely be seen if you look at it. So I would be willing to bet this is the right lane from Dawnside. But the problem is
of Legacy, though.
Well, so here's my thing on it. I almost want to feel like it's the right lane, but we also see jungle entrances on the right and the left, right? Like you see that
on the right.
Fog wall right beneath the blue ball.
Oh, below the blue ball. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I see it.
So we see that that's a fog wall, right? Now it would be interesting because this specific shape here, might be the camera angle, really makes it seem like the left side is very open and the right side isn't, right? So could this be a mid lane, quite frankly, and that's just a crossing in between two towers? Or could this be a solo lane, and now you're going to have an outer jungle as well next to the solo lane?
That's exactly what I was going to say. I think this is right lane, and that portal or that fog wall just leads to
just a small little patch.
Yeah, I think it
maybe a buff there or whatever.
Yeah, because they had, before their map before had the buffs on the side, the little gold buffs on each side of the map.
So I'll be real, I understand why they're using monolith assets, because they are good looking assets, right?
Right.
They arguably could be very shiny, very pretty, but at the same time, I was loving how before they were keeping that legacy vibe. I was loving before how they were keeping, they had their own towers, they had their own walls, etc. Now it's just like, you know what? We just used all the monolith assets and made a map. I don't like that now these maps for all these people are even more comparable. I love that they were going more original, and now they're not. I think if that is like an outer jungle to the solo lane, that would be sick. That would be sick. Could you imagine if they have a system where they got two main jungles and then an outside camp or an outside jungle rotation area? That would mean so much potential for the jungler itself. Or like we mentioned, that could be like the jungler could say to a solo laner, hey, grab those outside camps. I'm not going to touch those. I'm going to be focused on the left side of the map. That would actually be very cool if that is the case. Now we see on here little verticality, like, there's steps leading, like almost like hovering over the tower on the left and the right. Kind of cool, implemented verticality, I just hope nobody gets stuck on any of those steps, invisible walls or whatever, which I'm sure they're gonna have ironed out. But I'm borderline disappointed that they use a monolith assets, to be honest. I was hopeful of their originality, and then now I'm just seeing all the monolith assets, which I understand the counter argument again. I'm just, oh, how do you feel about what you see?
I think it looks great. I don't mind them using the monolith assets. A lot of the assets that they were using before were custom built by, oh my God, why did I forget his name?
Wasn't it Fringe?
Fringe, yes. God damn. Can't believe he's gonna punch me right in the dick. Yeah, Fringe built a lot of those. I'm sure he built a lot of these too. I haven't had a lot of information about the game in a while, but I'm fine with them using the monolith assets. But yeah, I also kind of preferred Fringe's sort of take on things.
Yeah, I love it.
We don't know if some of these assets were, remodeled and rebuilt by Fringe. They just designed to look like monolith assets.
I could see that, because for example, when we look at the tower, you can see almost like a platform that the tower's sitting on, right? Which is very unique to them, like some sort of platform that actually matches the overall aesthetic, but it also helps prevent hey, people can't step inside of here sort of deal. So it's very possible that they just use those assets, kind of tweak them a little bit to kind of give them their own flair. But yeah, man, I'll be real with you. It worries me as far as individually in creativity, because these games were starving for their own flair, right? And one of the things Predecessor had going for it was its own original map, very lightly used assets before, you know what I mean? And now I just look at this and I'm like, all right, so we're arguably looking at a different version of the fault map, low-key, or a different version of monolith map. Now, worth mentioning,
like a crystal, right? It was like a crystal.
Yeah, like they had these unique towers and stuff, and maybe just polish that up. Why go into monolith, right? Monolith towers. But worth mentioning, at least map design wise, you notice that on the top left corner, you can see that blue orb that kind of indicates a jungle entrance, right?
Right.
Now, notice also in the back middle to the left, you can also see a blue orb indicating a jungle entrance.
I do not see what you're talking about.
So follow that left wall. When it meets the sky on the right side, you can see the spike in the blue ball and the blue orb up top.
Okay, yeah.
So that indicates another jungle entrance. So that lets me know that for some reason, there's two jungle entrances close to each other, and that is a circle, almost like a pit. You feel me? So that leads me to interesting jungle design, because you're gonna walk in, to the right is a jungle camp. It's a pit sort of shape, like a half circle or maybe 3/4 circle or whatever, and then it's gonna have another jungle entrance next to it. So I find it interesting that they're almost utilizing all that empty space, whereas for example in their previous map or in the current fault map, right, you can see that there's general triangular shaped jungles, and the empty space that's not being used is just, let's throw up a wall and have dead space in there, right?
Yeah.
Where here, you can see that even that little nook and cranny on the left-hand side, they're like, hey, we're leaving that exposed. We're not having any dead space. That's what I see off of this picture. So you have a lot more land to circumnavigate, as opposed to, hey, this is a dead corner that doesn't get used. Right?
Yeah.
But man, so that excites me. I'm not 100% sure if I like the monolith assets being used, only because it compares these games even more, right? That's my only drawback on it. I love the originality before. Now they're gonna get compared even more, but arguably at the same time, Predecessor is trying to be a predecessor. So having a monolith inspired map also does make sense with their vision and the core audience that they're aiming for, right? And almost like, for example, Fault is kind of trying to do their own thing as well. It would almost make sense for now, while Predecessor shifts to a monolith style map, Fault should shift into their own individually created map that isn't using most of these assets. You get what I'm saying there? Like how they might each shift in different directions now?
Yeah, well, the design is legacy. The assets may be monolith, but the design, I'm looking at everything right now. This is legacy.
How so?
Inspired. It's not exactly legacy, but it's legacy inspired.
How so? Because like the whole zigzag lanes, that was a monolith thing that we saw in Legacy. You could see all the way from Inhib to First Tower.
Maybe in mid lane at first, but
in mid lane, yeah, the outer lanes were a huge curve.
But there was still a it was still crooked. Well, legacy
only in
at first,
only in the middle.
There was a ramp up and all kinds of craziness for mid lane.
Because that's what I was gonna say. And if you remember back in Legacy,
players that I'm seeing, and
I was gonna say, if you remember back in Legacy, the middle lane was perfectly straight until after the first tower. When you got to mid, it went off to one side. You had stairs that met in the middle, and then when you went down those stairs, you had to do a diagonal direction a little bit to get to the tower. But then from T1 to Inhib, it was a straight shot. But they did have verticality, like stairs going up the side and everything, but it was a straight shot on mid, if you remember. Now this whole zigzag, this whole zigzag was something that they implemented back in Monolith, as far as, hey, this is something that we're fixing from the previous map, so a jungler can actually make a rotation without being seen. Because if you were hitting the enemy first tower, you could easily see the jungle rotating from left to right. Or if you were on that middle platform, you could see jungle rotating from left to right, and then just call jungles on the right side now. And this was something that they implemented in order to kind of change that. Then they kind of mess with jump pads, etc. Right? So I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm curious to see what everything looks like. One thing that I'm actually noticing, right, and I just saw this, if you see that middle tower on the Dawn side that just has like the gold orb up top with the blue diamond, follow that down about halfway and then look to the left of it. There's a big rock there.
Is that a rock or a wall?
I mean, regardless, I'm seeing that, for example, we're seeing Dawn assets on the Monolith side, but I'm seeing something that is not the traditional white wall, black wall somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, there's a big gray rock there. I see it.
So that either leads me to believe that they might have a special structure designed for maybe like the Prime Pit or whatever, right? That might be kind of cool. Or what if on the Dusk side, maybe that's just the way that the core looks. But low key, what if all the walls on the Dusk side are still rocky, almost like a torn down civilization sort of deal? Because Predecessor was really vibing off of that before. They were really vibing off of the whole, you know, like these are ruins of what Agora used to be, right? What if that's still how the Dusk side looks? It's just the Dawn side looks a little bit better, but with foliage, you know, kind of growing up.
That'd be cool.
Right? That like half of their map, half of the Monolith map to kind of please people. That would be lit.
Yeah.
That would be awesome. All right, but let's do this. Let's go ahead and end this video. Leave a comment down below as far as what you see in these maps that needs changing, what you would recommend, and quite frankly, if you simply like some of the stuff that we talked about or not. But as always, till the next video.